right, everybody, welcome into Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports, episode 102. And yes, you'll never believe who is behind me. Not the checkerboards of Neyland Stadium, but on a weekend where the Vols beat the Kentucky Wildcats, a Kentucky Wildcat. Why? Because uh, Will Levis absolutely may have proved me wrong this weekend. Say this, I'm Nicholas Hill. I suddenly confused Tennessee Titans fan and Chattanooga, Tennessee of the United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil is Gustavo Tomazeli. Gus, how are you doing this night before Halloween?
I mean, it's a historical night because it's one of those days that we have the four-peat, the forfecta, not the trifecta, the forfecta, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, and the NBA all have games that counts. I'm watching the game three of the World Series and the Monday Night Football here with me. So I am in full American sports mode, and I'm also have the Brasilia Stadium behind me in my board in my background because I'm gonna definitely there's a big game there on Wednesday, and I'm gonna get to that later. And by the way, God love your background, and I love the way it was set up in the broadcast. It literally looks like Will Levis is looking at you, judging you for all the hate that you gave him.
Yeah, I literally came on here after we drafted him in a black hoodie and gave my I called it Tennessee Titans Waterloo when we drafted Will Levis. I said it was one of the worst decisions this franchise ever has made. It even, I think, caused me to briefly consider whether or not I should remain a fan of the team. And yet, I think part of it was, the Hendon Hooker deal. But we'll get into that when we get into the Titans game here in a moment. I do want to mention that we do have two games ongoing. We have the World Series. Game 3 is ongoing in Phoenix, Arizona, between the Texas Rangers and Arizona Diamondbacks. Both teams came in at one apiece heading into this game. Right now, heading into the top of the seventh, the Rangers lead 3-0. We also have Monday Night Football going on in Detroit, and at halftime, the Detroit Lions lead 16-7 over the Las Vegas Raiders. I guess to start with the World Series here, just kind of what are your impressions on how the series has gone so far? And how do we think tonight's game is going to end and where the rest of the series is going to go?
First of all, I think one apiece definitely sounds fair. I said before even the World Series starts that this was gonna be an even matchup. I think it's gonna go all the way to the game 7. Adonis Garcia definitely is in the path to be the MVP of the World Series. He's been a blast, hitting home run after home run. But my concern for the Rangers is the pitching. Mark Scherzer could even start tonight's game. He left the game when he was warming up. So I guess pitching is my concern for the Rangers because the offense for the Rangers been great. Tonight they're dominating 3-0, but pitching definitely is a concern for the Texas team. While the Arizona Diamondbacks, I feel like they are more vibrant, but I don't know if they have the experience to be in this matchup.
Yeah, and that's what I agree. I mean, I really think the Diamondbacks, they should have found a way to win game 1. If they had gone back to Arizona up 2-0, they would have a real shot to pull off the upset in the series. But blowing game 1 in the manner that they did, blowing that 2-run lead in the bottom of the ninth, and then losing in extras, um, it's not good. I mean, game 4 really becomes a must-win tomorrow night if they can't come back from this 3-0 deficit because I don't think they're coming back from 3-1. I just don't see it. They got to get it to a best of 3 tomorrow night if they are going to have a chance to pull off the victory. Just a very, I guess, difficult situation for them to be in. But obviously, no one expected the Diamondbacks to be in this spot. A few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, right now I don't see the Diamondbacks coming back. I saw they just put their reliever Kyle Nelson, which has a good overall performance in the postseason, but I don't know. I don't see the Diamondbacks coming back. I mean, only if the defensive really blows up the Raiders does don't walk with a 2-1 lead in the series.
Absolutely. I think I said what? I think I said Rangers in 5 before.
I
I
said
feel like Ranger. Go ahead.
I said Rangers in 7.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to been down to Rangers in 6. I think at this point, um, and it looks like Lowe just almost took it yard, but it was caught in the outfield. That was almost another home run for the Rangers. And plus, you also got to say too, the Rangers on the road this postseason have just been incredible. Um, so the Diamondbacks obviously are going to have to find a way to win some of these home games.
Yeah, but Chase Field has not been a good home environment. The Diamondbacks only made to the World Series after stunning the Phillies in Philadelphia. So it's not like Chase Field was a decisive home field advantage. I think Texas has a better field home field advantage than Arizona, but in a World Series, all about the pitching. It's all about what pitcher is healthier than the other and who can make more runs. And I think it's gonna be 2 outs in the top of the 7th.
Yep. Um, it's interesting that you mentioned about the home field advantage because it came out that game one of the World Series on Friday night was the lowest watch World Series game in history, and a little bit over 9 million people. Do we think this is just a product of the two fan bases that are here, or do we think there's something that the MLB is doing that um, that's causing the ratings to be so low? Because I saw some people complaining online that they didn't even know the World Series was happening.
I think the problem is there's not stars in this World Series. Like, who is the athlete who drives somebody to watch this World Series? There's none. Of course, you can say Adonis Garcia or like Diamondbacks. There's good athletes, but there's no stars. Like, if there was like a Shohei Otani or a Mike Trout or even Bryce Harper, if the Phillies were in the World Series, maybe there were probably 1 to 2 or even 3 million people. But the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, they have a good fan base, but they don't have a brand
Exactly.
nationally.
Yeah, and like they don't. Neither one of these teams draw any reaction for me whatsoever. I'm so indifferent on these two franchises. Like if it were like the Yankees and the Cubs, those are franchises I have like feelings about, or like the Yankees and the Dodgers, or like the Angels. I mean, those are all, as you said, those are all teams I have emotional reactions to. I mean, this is the equivalent to like Minnesota and you know,
No,
Minnesota and
maybe
like Boston College being in the national championship.
no, like I think we can say like I mean I know it's hard to make an NFL comparison because the Dallas Cowboys, which literally plays the same complex as the Texas Rangers, is is America's team, so that's their reaction. But it's like if the Super Bowl have the Arizona Cardinals and the Houston and the oh my god
Texans.
Houston Texans.
Yeah, I mean that would be a game where a lot of people wouldn't care about because I mean those are two of the newest franchises. Or like the Texans and the Panthers. Could you imagine a Super Bowl between those two? I mean, those are two franchises that have literally neither one of them are 30 years old.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like that. So it's like if the Texans and the Cardinals made to the Super Bowl, I mean, people will still watch it because it's America's game, but definitely will have way few viewership than, for example, Patrick Mahomes against uh, Jimmy Garoppolo in the previous Super Bowls, or even when there was Patriots and when there was Russell Wilson versus Tom Brady.
Yeah, speaking of the NFL, looks like we had a really bad injury in the Raiders and Lions game. Couldn't tell who that was, but everyone was taking a knee. I'm pretty sure it was a Raiders player. Trying to figure out who that was. But yeah, it just and plus I think putting game one on a Friday night is just an awful idea. I mean, the Friday night before Halloween, people are out, people are going to Halloween parties, costume. I mean, outside of hardcore baseball fans, the casual is doing other things because it's Halloween weekend.
I mean, overall, Major League Baseball definitely does not know how to schedule their playoff games in a way that the non hardcore fans watch. That's the
Yeah,
NFL. That's something the NFL is a master to because they spread their games throughout Sunday. Of course, something we always have a knock on is the primetime game, which they don't choose very wisely. I'll say the least.
yeah. I mean, they gotta start doing flexing like it's college. I mean
Yeah, they gotta
that's
do that. They gotta do that. I know they wanna kind of pick before the season starts, so we make those announcements and try to choose based on uh, probable stars that could be interesting. But like, you know, for example, a game that was picked even before the season started that looked like a great matchup on a primetime game, Chiefs and the Jets. But then Aaron Rodgers got injured, and then it become kind of slugfest.
right. Right, and you make those decisions based off what you think is going to be good, but you can't do that. I mean, it's like this week, like Notre Dame Clemson. I'm sure before the season, people looked at that game and thought it would be a battle of top 10 teams, maybe top five teams. But that's not the way that worked because obviously Clemson has been an absolute disaster this season. So it's not an elite matchup. Meanwhile, Tennessee Missouri next week, I'm sure a game that people were overlooking in the preseason. It's going to be a game of two highly ranked teams. But that's the beauty of flex scheduling. You can account for the surprise games. So I clearly, that's definitely an NFL issue. But for the MLB, I just don't know. I think that just in general, baseball in general, it's a sport for certain people, and I don't know if it's ever going to recapture the American imagination again, like it did, 50, 60 years ago.
No, I agree with you. I think maybe baseball is gonna stay a prime, not a prime time. I'll say a prime American sport, but it's not the sport in America anymore. That's football. Football took over because football uh, embraced what sports fans want: rivalries and personalities and you know and emotion. So that's what people wanted. And shout out Elaine Barbosa, my beautiful girlfriend here in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, saying good night. And Jason Warwick with us as well in Louisville. But just to finish my point, I think you know local fans are still gonna care about their baseball team, like you care about the Braves. People in New York is gonna care about the Mets and the Yankees. In Chicago, there'll be still Cub fans and White Sox fans. But like nationally, that's football turn.
Yeah, oh, easily, because everyone loves football, no matter where you are. Speaking of
Like
football, the Raiders. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say like, but I guess there's a touchdown you want to say.
Yeah, touchdown Raiders on a pick six. Marcus Peters jumping the route from Goff to Amon Ross St. Brown, and he took that one to the crib. Absolutely juked out Jared Goff to take it all the way back. So it's about to be a 16-14 game. A competitive one here. It's actually not that bad of a game. I don't know if the Raiders have the
Oh,
offense.
Jared Goff, come on! Oh my God, that was a sloppy pick six.
Yeah, I know Goff's overall been pretty good this year. I just don't think he's going to lead Detroit to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I think he
I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Also, I'm also have the MLS playoffs happening right now. Seattle's 1-0 against Dallas. So there's also five American leagues happening right now with the MLS, if we count MLS. So
yeah,
what a
unfortunately
sport.
Nashville lost 1-0, unfortunately, to Orlando earlier.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that later. But I mean, I still think that the Rangers are it's not the favorite, but definitely it's the better team in this postseason. It's a matter of how they're gonna control this series.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They just got to get out of this game, and I think they'll be in a really good spot. I love that there's a guy in the front row wearing an Iowa shirt.
And there's also a guy wearing Eastern Bunny hat.
Yeah, hey, night before Halloween. I mean, there's a ton of dudes at the Detroit game in uh, in Halloween costumes. I just walked around Chattanooga Saturday
Oh
night.
yeah,
There was just
gotta
so many
love
people
that.
dressed up. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm not really a Halloween dresser up guy. I'm not one of those
Me
guys. I feel
too.
like
Me too.
I feel like if I had a girlfriend who made me, maybe I would, but you know, that's the
Yeah,
only way I
the
would.
same point to you. And here in Brazil, Halloween's weird because it's seen as more like a kid's kind of thing. When I was a kid, but not as an adult thing. Like maybe there were parties, Halloween parties out there, but as my girlfriend knows, I'm not a party guy.
Right. And I really think, at least in America, I feel like adults have really attempted to take over Halloween to an extent. Like I was asked, are you going to dress up at work tomorrow? And it's just like it's work, man. Like I don't know, I haven't gone to Spirit Halloween. I'm not going to spend money on a costume. Um, and I understand like for grown-ups, especially like if you're in college or something. Now, Halloween in college is pretty fun. I'm not going to lie. But um, it's it's just overall not my favorite. Like I'm not a horror movie guy. I don't really like any Halloween music. I'm much more of a Christmas guy.
Yeah, me too. When I was in America, I liked Fourth of July better than Halloween because Fourth of July is about embracing your nation, not a silly costume. But that's just me. But
Right.
tonight, tonight should be a new holiday. Whenever this happens, there's a holiday called America Sports Day. Because like, how cool it is to have all the pro leagues in America having games right now. Like, it should be a holiday. I'm just saying.
And the ability to have more than one of them on the screen at the same time as well. Because I have the YouTube TV multi-view, I have the World
Yeah.
Series on the left, got the NFL game on the right. I mean, can't get any better than this.
I have three setups. I have my projector MLB, my laptop with the NFL, and my phone with the MLS. So I have three screens, three American sports.
Absolutely. We are all over every single sport. And of course, there's basketball happening tonight and hockey's happening tonight. It is on going down. But real quick on this Lions Raiders, I think we both picked the Lions, I'm pretty sure, to win it last week. Do we think there's any chance the Raiders pull off an upset? Because, I mean, I know that they're only down two, but the Lions have outgained them 304 to 105 in terms of yardage. Man, golf will just
Uh,
threw another pick.
Yeah, I think only if Detroit mess it up because Raiders they don't have any consistency. They're trying to find their identity. Garoppolo is a little bit above average quarterback, but the roster itself is okay. I don't know. I was expecting more from Detroit. This should be Detroit's game, not if Detroit loses this game. I think as a Packer or a Minnesota fan, I'll start to get hopeful in terms of the division.
Well, maybe if I'm not a Minnesota fan, considering that you just lost Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, let's get into some more NFL talk here. I guess since we just brought him up, Kirk Cousins. The Achilles injury just awful yesterday. Of course, they beat the Packers 24-10, but they lost Kirk Cousins in the process. Their only other option right now on the Vikings roster is Jared Hill, a rookie from BYU. I think Minnesota's going to have to go out and find somebody. But I don't
Maybe and
know
and
who.
they should and maybe this could be a good thing, for whom? Tennessee
Hmm.
Titans.
For a certain someone, and that's what I'm going to segue into here because
No, not the guy behind you, but the guy he's playing in place of.
right, and Mike Vrabel said today that Will Levis is going to start Thursday night against Pittsburgh since Ryan is not going to be ready. But I don't even think it should be a question of that anymore. I mean, Ryan Tannehill literally had 2 touchdown passes heading into this game. Will Levis threw double that in one day. Obviously, it's no secret that I have, on numerous occasions on this show and on Twitter and across social media, have said that Will Levis will be a bust, that he's not a good quarterback. I literally saw him in person last year at the Kentucky at Tennessee game at night in Neyland, and he only threw for 98 yards. So I thought I had the evidence I needed to say Will Levis wasn't going to be a good quarterback. And I will say when the Titans drafted him, I thought it was just horrifically bad. Horrible decision. Absolutely dumb. When I was making our montage video, I went back and watched that episode, and I said it was the Tennessee Titans Waterloo. Just an absolutely a decision that the franchise will rue for years to come. But what do I know? Apparently, Will Levis knows what he's doing. He came in, and all that this rookie quarterback did was come in and throw 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and lead the Titans. And keep in mind, he did this against a top 10 statistical defense in the Atlanta Falcons and lead them to a 28-23 victory. I'll tell you guys, I was stunned. Absolutely shocked how good he was.
I mean, from the audio message that you sent me, it felt like the Titans were in disarray, and the Falcons was gonna dominate the game. But Will Levis came and had some really impressive throws. I mean, it was really gutsy throws for a guy who's literally is on the first time on the field as an NFL quarterback. So that was impressive. Of course, we don't know if that was the question is for the Titans fans like you is that a fluke or is that something people expect to see from him? That's the big question.
Yeah, that is the question, because the problem is, now opposing coaches are going to have film on him. And to be fair, some of the throws he made, you just can't teach. Like the fourth one, especially, where he went across the field, threw it off his back foot, and just landed perfectly in the hands of Nick Westbrook-Akeen. Just a gorgeous throw. All of this, the 3, because he had 2 deep ones to Hopkins. Holy cow. I think maybe partially, this is my frustration with the Vols and Joe Milton not being able to complete deep shots. But seeing a quarterback being able to complete deep shots in stride, the elation that I felt, it was cathartic seeing him hit those deep shots. It's just amazing. Because this Titans offense has been just horrifically bad the past year and a half. Because the Titans haven't scored this many points in the game since week 17 of 2021. Like, that's how anemically bad. And the thing is, if the passing offense can be this good, take these deep shots, you know what that opens up? That opens up the run game. Because you know what Derrick Henry did yesterday? He ran for 101 yards. Tajay Spears had 3 carries for 27 yards, 9 yards a carry. So it opens up those two. And then, obviously DeAndre Hopkins. I thought this guy was washed. Turns out he just needed a better quarterback thrown to him. Because he actually looked like D-Hop. He looked like the D-Hop we all talked about. The D-Hop that, I remember from his time in Houston, from parts of his time in Arizona. But here's the thing, obviously, can Will Levis be consistent? Because he clearly, with this one performance, I want to see him start the rest of the season no matter what. Because he's a rookie. I know he's going to have bad games. I know he's going to make mistakes. But clearly, he's your guy. You got to keep him out there and you got to let him grow. He's going to have some tough games. I think Thursday is going to be a tough game for him because he's going to play an elite defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But continue to let him grow, let him make some mistakes, because we saw yesterday how special he can be. I mean, he has arm strength that you cannot teach. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I missed something while he was in college. I didn't know he was capable of that. I didn't think he was capable of that.
Or maybe, like, I know you analyze him for only one game, and for example, if you go back and watch Peyton Manning's career at Tennessee, there were games that he looked awful, but a quarterback journey is not defined by one game, and we didn't watch every single snap he had at Kentucky, but maybe that's what scouts do, watch
Right.
tape and analyze players, and the Titans scouts saw something in Will Levis that you didn't.
Yeah, and that's why they get paid to be draft scouts and not me. I just get to go on here and just say my piece on it. And maybe too, what I should have considered is he didn't have elite talent around him at Kentucky. He doesn't have elite weapon. I mean, the best weapon he had was Wandale Robinson.
Yeah, as Mark Stoops point out this year, he only have talent if he gets the money.
Right. And he clearly didn't have the money to get any talent around Will Levis. And I do have to remember back in 21, he did put up 400 yards on Tennessee in the 21 game because that was a 45-42. And maybe also, let's be real, the last 2 years, I mean, because I don't know if I would have been so mad about this pick in the first place if it wasn't the whole situation between him and Hendon Hooker. And clearly, my own personal affinity for Hendon Hooker as a Tennessee fan blinded me to the potential of Will Levis. And my attachment to him, because let's be real, Hendon Hooker is the best Tennessee quarterback I've seen ever since I was a Tennessee fan. I wasn't alive for Peyton Manning, and I saw Hendon Hooker beat Will Levis 2 straight times. But in retrospect, yeah, Hendon had better coaching. He had better talent around him than Will Levis did. And maybe that doesn't always translate. Josh Allen didn't have some. I mean, Josh Allen in his last year at Wyoming threw 64 yards against Oregon. Hasn't translated into the NFL. Herbert, I thought, was kind of mediocre at Oregon, but that hasn't translated over into the NFL, right? I think Levis has potential to be in that mold if he develops. And I don't want to, as you said, we don't want to go off just one game. And I am cautiously optimistic, but clearly, Will Levis today, this is the first time, frankly, since we've done this pod, since maybe like episode 10. We talked about in episode 100, like one of the recurring themes of this pod is my constant pessimism over the Tennessee Titans. But this is the last time I felt this.
I mean, hell, I am more optimistic about the Titans than you are.
Yeah, but honestly, this is the first time since December 21 where I'm actually excited to watch the Titans play again. Where I think, I don't think we're going to the playoffs or anything this year. I mean, don't get that twisted. I still don't think we're probably at most a 6 or 7-1 team this season. But I now know we have a quarterback to build around, and that completely changes the calculus because you don't have to tank anymore. Because me and my calls for tanking early in the season was my assumption that Will Levis was going to suck. And clearly, we have something we can build off of if we keep him healthy, if we continue to let him grow and give him some more weapons. Because obviously you have DeAndre Hopkins, but I still think we're going to need some other guys. I mean, outside of Hopkins, no other receiver had over 33 yards yesterday. You're going to need other guys. And maybe that's where Ryan Tannehill comes in. And I'll say this, now that I know I feel like we're truly at the end of an era, I'm the first to say I appreciate what Ryan Tannehill has done for the Tennessee Titans. I think Obviously, when he came in a very similar situation to Will Levis is coming in right now. At 2-4, replacing Marcus Mariota after an awful performance in Denver in 2019, and he helped the Titans turn around that season and got them to the AFC title game. I mean, had a great year in 20, had a really good year in 21. But honestly, that loss to Cincinnati, it just broke him. And he hasn't been the same quarterback since that loss to Cincinnati. And it's unfortunately, it is time to move on to Levis. But I really appreciate Tannehill for what he has done. And frankly, in my time as a Titans fan, he's probably the best quarterback we have had. Just in general, what he's been able to do.
But he will be always remembered as the quarterback that lost the AFC divisional round as the 1 seed at home against the Bengals. That sting is never gonna come off, unfortunately.
Right. And like if he had been able to get back to that point, maybe he could have. But that, especially since that's his last last playoff game as a Titan, there's no coming back from that, unfortunately, legacy wise. And I think a team like Minnesota, maybe a team like Las Vegas, maybe a team like Washington should consider Tannehill. A team that's just really desperate and needs a veteran to get them through the rest of the season. That's I think that's the future there for Tannehill. It looks like at this point we're not going to get rid of Henry. And hey, with Levis, if he especially with the promise Levis has, and I think teams are going to have to respect his deep balls. I mean, that opens up running lanes for Derrick Henry. And I think it's only going to help him be better because the problem with Henry, I think, at times this year is we have had no passing game. So, yeah, teams can just stack the box and key in on Henry. But with Levis, you have to respect the fact that he can sling it downfield and be an accurate passer. I mean, he had, I think, one inaccurate pass yesterday. Like, that was it. Like, he otherwise was just on the money. And I know it's not going to be like that every single game. But still, I think defenses are going to have to respect that. And I think it's going to open up so much for Henry and for Tajay Spears. I'm so much more excited now for this team. I will say, my criticism of Vrabel at the time of that call, of that message I left y'all yesterday, that was more the whole Malik Willis situation. Because I know he said he was going to try the whole 2 quarterback thing, and I'm glad he only did that for 2 plays. Because I know a lot of the players said they were mad about Titans fans booing Malik. And I hate that happened to Malik. Because, I mean, I think Malik has been a class act ever since he came in to Nashville. And he's definitely has tried to be a good quarterback. It's just, it's not happening, unfortunately, for Malik Willis. I mean, he hasn't even thrown a single touchdown pass. Here, as a Tennessee Titan, at least as a quarterback. And, I hate that and I hate it, but at the same time, this is professionals. This is the NFL. Fans are going to boo you, especially if you drop the ball in the snap.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Malik Willis came to this league with a lot of promise, and but he never delivered. Unfortunately, he never delivered, and I guess Will Levis' performance against not a divisional rival, but a local rival, because the Falcons are the closest team the Titans have, and that was a good performance at home in front of the fans. So that should account for something. I think playoff reach is, I don't know. I don't see that.
No.
I think Jacksonville is going to take over the AFC South. I mean, great win they had in Pittsburgh on the road. And I think the Titans should look this as like, if we can develop well, next year we can start thinking about be back as a contender in the division at least.
Right. Just at this point, see if you can try to accumulate some draft picks. Try to get some more weapons on offense. Because I don't know where we're going to land draft-wise. I still feel like at most we're like a 6 or 7 win team. But now you are a 6 or 7 win team with a young quarterback developing. and that's so much more different than being a 6 or 7 win team with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, because now we have a plan for the future, not being stuck with an old quarterback and with a high contract.
Exactly. Just be curious to see who takes on that contract. And the great thing about Levis right now is he's on a second round contract. We didn't, and that's the amazing thing. We didn't even have to spend a first round pick on this guy, so we're not
Yeah.
paying anything for him. So we can try to really bump him up and hopefully take advantage of him being super young uh, to develop him. But obviously, Will Levis, yeah, I'm a fan now, and I hope that the Titans develop him well and don't ruin him. Please don't ruin this guy. I mean, he has the potential to be the best Titans quarterback I've ever seen. I mean, just bar none. He
Whoa.
has that potential.
What a 180.
Yeah, what a 180. But I've never been so happy to be wrong. I'll say that much. Um, but
Yeah, like
hey, I
it,
did say this too. I did say this too. I said that if I could learn to love Derrick Henry, I could learn to love Will Levis. And
because I mean that's true. Like the Titans never look for the volunteers for talent. There's not much history. The only a few. One of them is Alex Ellis that was drafted by the Titans that play for the Vols. That's the one of the
I mean,
few
we
that I
did
remember.
start Josh Dobbs the last 2 games of last year.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. But drafted out of
Right.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
volunteers for the Titans.
And we
There's
brought it
really few.
and we did sign Albert Hansworth back in the mid 2000s. But that was a disaster. And he played DL for the Vols in the early 2000s. So, but this is the NFL. Like, you can't make decisions based off emotional attachments. You got to make it off who the best player is. And clearly, the Titans. And think about how Mel Kiper feels today. He was running around talking about how Will Levis was his number one quarterback. We all thought he was crazy.
he's
But Mel
like
Kiper.
he's like I was right. I was right, and I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are finally gonna score. So it's 3-1. Still Rangers lead, but now it's a 2-run lead.
So like 3-1. 3-1 for the Rangers. Anyway, some other quick NFL notes here. The Broncos. How about the Denver Broncos? They finally defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in 16 attempts.
Yeah, but Chiefs fans are gonna say, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes was having a flu," so was so a lot of people, a lot of Chiefs fans are gonna say, "Okay, Denver, you got the W, but wasn't we weren't 100%." But it also just shows how dependent on Patrick Mahomes this Kansas City Chiefs team are. And speaking of uh, uh, NFL, the Detroit Lions took over the lead. Uh, rushing touchdown by Jameer Gibbs. They literally went to the stands to hug fans. So it's now he's
That's into my night
22.
in fantasy. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
in a football
you
game.
have you have
My opponent
you
has
have.
Jameer Gibbs. I have Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is doing nothing tonight.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, very much a disaster. But yeah, I would agree. This is just an off game, a flu game. Um, but hey, Denver. I mean, they're 3-5 now. They have, I think, what, 2 straight wins, if I'm correct. So you know, are they getting it together? I mean, they have a bye week and then they go to Buffalo, and frankly, Buffalo has not looked very impressive recently. Um, there's a chance they could go on a little bit of a run here and kind of get their season back on track.
I think the Broncos have to use the rest of the 2023 season to get their ass together and also to see if Russell Wilson is the quarterback of the future or not, because they really need to see that quick, because they either stick with him or you found some team like Minnesota that I think Minnesota would you know trade for Russell Wilson.
I mean, I could see that. I could definitely see that, but you know, it wouldn't work in Minnesota. I mean, this guy only threw for 19 times yesterday and 114 yards.
Yeah, but
So,
but Minnesota is now they lost their quarterback, which also is true because when you get your starting quarterback injured, you have to find a quarterback that is not a star, but also can carry you through the year.
right. I mean, 2 years ago, Russell Wilson was a star.
But
So
he still have a contract that is worth of a star.
absolutely. But anyway, I think it's time to get into some NFL picks.
Oh yeah, that's true. Also, another game I want to talk about. How about that awful New York Derby? Jesus Christ, that looked awful. That was one of the worst NFL games I ever seen. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, it fit the bill for Jets and Giants. It definitely didn't. And how did the Giants lose that game?
Yeah, like how? Because Zach Wilson looked inept. It looked all over the place. The Giants looked they had control over this game, especially after the third quarter, and somehow they found a way to win. And they found a way to lose. And the Jets right now looking at 4-3. I don't know. Without I mean, as I said, this team doing well without Aaron Rodgers. Jets fans are like, I mean, they're going to be hopeful for next year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have a great defense, but I think for this year, it's clear they don't have the offense to make the playoffs. They definitely don't. But then again, you got to remember the Giants. They also made the Buffalo game last week muddy. Just every Giants game is unwatchable right now because they're trying to muddy up every single game because that's their only chance because they have no offense.
That's what you get when you pay your star quarterback $160 million over the span of 4 years, and he is really average.
Yeah. Speaking of average, the San Francisco 49ers right now are average. I mean, the Bengals went in there and blew them out.
Third third straight loss, and this one was at home.
I mean, I thought San Francisco was easily the best team in the NFL a few weeks ago, but that ain't the case right now. And I think partially it's injuries. Once again, a Kyle Shanahan team. What is up with the injuries?
Like the NFC right now looks really wide open, wide open. I mean, maybe the Eagles is a little bit better than the rest, but you know, and I know maybe I'll be kind of exaggerated, but why not the Dallas Cowboys made to NFC Championship? I don't see any team that is better than the Cowboys right now.
Right, but they still have Dak Prescott, and I don't trust Dak Prescott in January.
Yeah, that's the only knock I have. But I think the Dallas can still make the divisional round. The question is, can they surpass that?
I mean, that's been the ceiling. That has been the ceiling for a long time for the Cowboys. And then they
Like
haven't even made the
28
title game since
years,
95. Yeah.
28 years without going to a conference championship.
I
Conference
mean,
champion.
America's team, baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Money can't buy you everything.
Yeah, it cannot. That's why we have a salary cap.
Yeah. That's true. So let's go to picks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your Tennessee Titans finally on a primetime game as they go to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers.
Absolutely. And as I said, I think this will be a tough one. I mean, Steelers have one of the best defenses. I mean, I'll very curious to see how Will Levis handles TJ Watt. But Minka Fitzpatrick is out. And the Pittsburgh offense is notoriously, let's just say, inept. Notoriously inept. You know what? I'm going to break the trend. Give me the Titans. I believe again.
Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, I I'm impressed. I like your optimism. Give the Titans two.
Yeah, because I think the Titans, like, if Will Levis shows up and plays the same this week, which I don't think he will play exactly the same, but I still think we can have a more functional offense than we would have with Tannehill. It'll be a better offense than what Pittsburgh has.
Uh, so let's go to Sunday games, and we start in Germany because the Kansas City Chiefs face the Miami Dolphins in Frankfurt.
Oh, what an amazing game this is for the European fans. Great choice by the NFL.
Yeah, two high offensive teams, two great quarterbacks, but we don't know how healthy Patrick Mahomes is going to be because, I mean, having a flu is hard. Imagine flying overseas in a plane with a flu.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. This game's huge for Miami. They got to prove they can win a big game, and I just don't see it. Now, granted, Jalen Ramsey may be back for this, but I trust the Chiefs more.
Mm. So I guess this weekend is the start of the end of the daylight saving time in America.
Correct, correct. We fall back on Saturday night.
Yeah. And now it's going to be a 2 hour difference.
Yeah, so we'll have to definitely plan for that
Yeah.
moving forward.
So 1 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Brazilian time, the 4-4 Atlanta Falcons host the 4-4 Minnesota Vikings. Two unknown quarterbacks and two, you know, I'll say not turmoil, but like you know, not contenders in their division franchises.
Yeah, congratulations to the Falcons for finally benching Desmond Ritter. I mean, this guy was holding this team back, and Taylor Heineke looked 1,000 times better. And right now, this matchup between Taylor Heineke and we don't know who for the Vikings. So I'm going to take Taylor Heineke and the Falcons.
Yeah, give me the Falcons too. The 4-3 Cleveland Browns hosting the 1-7 and 0-4 on the road Arizona Cardinals. I mean, no brainer. Give me the Browns.
Browns. It's unfortunately it's Joe over for our boy Josh Dobbs. Unfortunately, as like the
Yeah.
internet would like to say, it's Joe over.
Uh, the 2-5 Green Bay Packers hosting the 3-5 Los Angeles Rams. I mean, so I was watching Colin Cowherd saying that Jordan Love is done. Is that premature? I mean, shouldn't we wait at least at the end of the season to make a judgment off of Love?
Well, I guess it depends where how much you lose, right? Like if you get high enough where you can get a high quarterback next year, yeah, I think he might be. I mean, he had 5 years. This isn't like Will Levis, right? Who's a true rookie. I mean, Will Levis had a better game yesterday than Jordan Love has had all year. I mean, think about that. And Jordan Love has had 5 years to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and prepare for this moment. Will Levis just got flung in there in week 8. I think that's an indictment. People expect rookie quarterback to show up and be good. And Jordan Love is nowhere close to a rookie.
But the Rams are also not at their best. Matthew Stafford dealt with a finger injury yesterday.
Yeah, I think Stafford at this point is washed. I think his best days are behind him.
Yeah, 2021 was his last gas. Now he's washed. I think he's now like that's why the Rams went aggressive and got him and got all the pieces in that run to the Super Bowl because that probably was the last prime for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm glad that he got himself a ring before that happened. But in this one, I am going to go with the Rams, though. I think the Packers are just an unmitigated disaster, and Matt LaFleur is going to be fired by the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a great matchup, Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay, but both coaches that are young and vibrant, but disappointing.
Yeah.
Now, another awful matchup, in my opinion. The 2-6 New England Patriots hosting the 3-5 Washington Commanders.
Thank God this is not a primetime game.
Thank God.
Tickets are it's still $100 to get into this game. Who is paying $100 to go to this game?
I want to talk. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have an interview with a sports fan who buys a ticket for $100 to see Mac Jones and Sam Howell. Like, why?
I mean, to go to Seahawks Ravens at the same time, it's only $63. And that's two.
Oh yeah,
5 and 2
to what?
6 and 2 team.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll definitely sign up for that, especially the quarterback battle.
Oh, absolutely. But in terms of Commanders and the Patriots, give me the Patriots. I think they've been playing at least somewhat better the last couple of weeks, but I still like the. I do like the Patriots here.
Give me the Patriots, but I'll definitely bet the line. I think it's going to be by a field goal difference.
Yeah, and plus, I think for Washington, I think Ron Rivera right now is an unmitigated disaster this season. I think they need to. I think they're going to replace him.
Yeah, unfortunately his best days are behind him.
Yeah.
So the 4-4 New Orleans Saints go host the 2-6 Chicago Bears. Yeah, I mean the Bears are also a team that's going nowhere. So give me New Orleans.
If Justin Fields is healthy, I'm tempted to take Chicago, but I'll take New Orleans just because we just don't know if he's healthy. I mean Tyson Badgett, I mean he's played valiantly, I think, in relief, but clearly he's nowhere close to being good enough to win a ton of games.
Next one, the game that you mentioned, the tickets are going as low as $63. The 6-2 Baltimore Ravens hosting the 5-2 Seattle Seahawks. I mean, those two teams are going to be in the postseason, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. But I will say this: the Ravens have a huge advantage here. West Coast teams tend to struggle in those early East Coast starts. So I do like the Ravens to get this done at home. And honestly, Lamar Jackson, he might be playing his way into an MVP type season.
Yeah, especially in the last few games, he's definitely being really a top level quarterback like we saw back in 2019.
Yeah, and all the people who say that he's a running back can shut up now. I mean, he's clearly one of the best quarterbacks in the game.
Like when he came out of college, I knew he was gonna be a top tier quarterback. I knew it instantly. It was a matter of where he lands because a lot of really good quarterbacks goes to those struggling franchises, like for example Justin Fields, and struggles uh, and to and Lamar Jackson took advantage of people doubting him, falling back to the draft, and was able to be picked up by a stable organization like the Ravens.
And honestly, that's what I'm hoping for this guy back here because the Titans. I mean, they've got a better roster than most teams that are looking for quarterbacks. Like they're not they aren't completely in rebuild mode. Not saying he's Lamar Jackson. But.
Yeah, I also don't want to compare, but Lamar Jackson was also brought up mid-season replacing a veteran quarterback, Joe Flacco. Just saying that.
Right. Okay, he definitely was. I feel like that might actually have been. I just realized that Lamar went to Louisville and then Levis went to Kentucky. So, yeah, arch rivals producing NFL quarterbacks.
Last game in the 1 p.m. Eastern Time window, 3 p.m. Brazil time. The 3-4 Houston Texans hosting the 3-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I mean, what a loss by Houston! In the last second field goal, losing to the win at that time winningless Carolina Panthers.
Right. I mean, this feels like an elimination game for both teams. Whoever loses is going to have a really bad season, I think. I mean,
Me
this is a
too.
game both.
Whoever loses is happy New Year. Happy hello 2024.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, give me the Bucks too.
Yeah. Speaking of the 1-405-605 game, it's the Frank Reich Bowl. Frank Reich with the Carolina Panthers finally with a win. Congratulations to Bryce Young and company. Takes on his former team in the Indianapolis Colts.
They're not gonna be back-to-back win. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Give me the Colts. I mean, Gardner Minshew is not playing bad. That Colts offense is really, really good. The Colts, though, they're going to have to invest heavily in two things. Obviously, offensive line to help out Anthony Richardson, and a lot of defense. A ton of defense.
Oh my God, Nick. This next matchup is so bad. It's so bad that even Vegas doesn't want to watch because Vegas does not have a line for the 3-4 Raiders hosting the 2-6 Giants.
Hey, do you know how much tickets cost, though? $167.
I guess Vegas tourists and people in Vegas overall want to watch football because this game is awful.
Like,
Like
why? Just party. Like, don't go to this game if you're in Vegas.
yeah, I mean, if you're that desperate to go a football game, like travel, find a like. It's I bet it's cheaper for you to find a plane ticket to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, and watch the Panthers and the Colts. They promise to be as good of a game as Raiders Giants.
I'm curious, who does UNLV play this weekend? You could go watch them for probably a much cheaper price. UNLV plays at New Mexico this weekend. Tickets are $18 if you want to go watch the Rebels. And UNLV is 6-2. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Go.
yeah.
Hey, next
UNLV plays
Friday,
it.
if you want to wait, 6-2 UNLV hosts 5-3 Wyoming next week, next Friday night.
How much tickets are
low as
gonna?
$37 to watch the Rebels.
I will definitely watch the UNLV Wyoming game than Raiders and Giants. That's for sure.
Absolutely. In terms of who's going to win this one, Giants.
Tie. Give me the tie.
Yeah, this might be worst game. This is going to be like 3-3.
Like Vegas does not have a line for this game.
Yeah, very much. It's just a don't care type of game.
Yeah, but this one, like, how can Eagles and the Cowboys are not primetime game?
Yeah, well,
Like,
425 is kind of a prime time game. It's mid afternoon, and in some ways, I would
yeah,
argue it's bigger than the primetime game, the Sunday night game.
that's fair. Also, they're kind of for Fox is their game of the week, so I guess it's a big deal. But I think whoever wins this game control the destiny of the NFC East.
Oh, absolutely. This is a huge game. I'll say this once again, Dak, if you want to prove to people that you can win big games, you've got to win this one. Gotta find a way to
Gotta,
get it
you
done on the road
gotta, you gotta.
because
Yeah,
this is a
because
legacy type game right here.
like I know the Dallas are playing well and they're 5-2, but if you analyze the teams that they beat, are teams that most likely are not gonna play in December and January, especially January. Giants, Jets, Patriots, Chargers, and the Rams are not gonna go to the playoffs. And
Yeah, and
you
they managed to
lost,
lose to the Cardinals.
yeah. So uh, you're gonna face a team that you're most likely gonna face in January.
Yeah. And as we saw, the one team that we saw them that we knew, but we probably know it's going to be in January, the 49ers, they got ran out of the building.
So yeah, so that game is definitely going to be kind of like, or you're a pretender or you're a contender.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be honest, they're going to be contender or pretenders again. Give me the Eagles.
I'm gonna believe in the Cowboys. Give me Dallas. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, if they win in Philly, I'll change my tune on the
Yeah.
Cowboys. But the Sunday
Well,
night game, this is definitely a throwback because the last time we saw this game on a primetime slot in Cincinnati, obviously we didn't see the full end of it. The Bills at Bengals, of course. The last time we saw this game outside the playoffs, it was the DeMar Hamlin game where it didn't end. We only got it to the middle way of the first quarter. He suffers a spinal injury, and that cancels the game and throws the NFL into chaos. And ultimately leads to the Bills getting that seeding over the Bengals, but the Bengals went to Buffalo and beat them anyway. So what do we think happens here?
mm, give me the Bengals. They're playing better. They found their rhythm. I mean, Joe Burrow always struggles in September, but once comes October, November, he looks sharp. Give me the Bengals.
You know what honestly reminds me of? The 2019 Chiefs. Remember the Chiefs that year? They started off horribly. Or it might have been the 21 Chiefs. It was the 21 Chiefs. How remember they started off, I think it was like 3-3 or something like that. But they got their rhythm midway for the year and they ended up going all the way to the Super Bowl. Or to the AFC title game, one of those two. The Cincinnati team reminds me
Yeah,
of that team.
the AFC title game. They lost to the Bengals.
Yep. I'm not saying the Bengals are going to go all the way and do that, but they look like a team that's capable of doing that. And the Buffalo Bills, I'm not impressed with them. I thought, like Tampa, this game last week, they had multiple chances to put them away, but they would always punt away on like 4th and 1 at like midfield. And the fans were booing them constantly. The Buffalo fans are not happy with this team right now. And nor should they be. I mean, the last 3 weeks, they struggled to beat a bad Giants team. They literally had to beat them on the goal line. They lost at a bad Patriots team, and they really didn't look that impressive at home against the Bucks.
Before we go to the NFL, what a horrible call by the home play umpire in the World Series. He calls an out, but definitely was a ball.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm seeing what you're saying. That was nowhere even close. That was over the plate. Or not over the box. I mean, not over the
Like,
plate.
horrific call. Like, I know the guy now. I don't know if you are in the same pace as I am. He got out, but that was a horrific call.
Wow. Yeah, well, at least he ended up getting out, so that won't change the outcome of the game any. But man, that was just a brutal miss. Brutal miss.
But in terms of the Sunday Night Football, give me the Bengals.
Yep, I agree. Give me the Bengals.
Monday Night Football, again, the New York Jets are on prime time because when the NFL overlords were scheduling teams, they thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be available throughout the rest of the season, not only for one offensive drive. So we get Zach Wilson against Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and also the Chargers. Why are we getting so many Chargers games? I mean, these guys can't win games. Now, granted, I know they won last night, but that was against Tyson Badger and the Bears. Give me the Jets here. This seems like the type of game where the Chargers are going to struggle offensively and find a way to choke and lose.
Brandon Staley needs to be fired after this season. I feel bad for Justin Herbert. He looks like Matthew Stafford, like has a lot of potential, but he's just in a bad franchise.
Yep, I agree 100% there.
Yeah, so as a bye, we have the Detroit Lions, the Denver Broncos, the 49ers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And speaking of the Lions, I guess they score, or I guess there was, almost a touchdown.
Yeah.
But 26-14 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I think they're in control. Jahmyr Gibbs is having an awesome game. He has almost 150 yards rushing tonight. So great game by him. Definitely established himself as the main running back in Detroit. But let's move on to some college ball here. Of course, our Volunteers beat Kentucky once again. 36 out of the last 39 over the Wildcats. Just insane how much the Vols own Kentucky in football. And hey, it was a road win. Finally, the first road win of serious consequence, really, since LSU of last year, discounting the Vanderbilt game. Yeah, I know it's an
Virginia in Nashville.
That was a home game. I know it was technically it was a neutral game. That's a road game, our home game. It was 90% Tennessee fans.
That's fair. But
Yeah.
first of all, what the hell was that end of a game? Like what was that?
Well, you can only fake injury so many times before karma reaches back up. And that's what Kentucky was trying to do. They thought that like if you sat down, roll on the ground, they would stop the clock, but with 44 seconds left, they didn't have any timeouts left, so they lost 10 seconds and then they reset the play clock. That was it. So, karma from Mark Stoops. And really, I'm just proud of the offense for being able to run down the clock there because they got the ball back with about 4 minutes left and were able to run it down. And it was awesome to watch. Like our running game.
Yeah, I think the team and Joe Milton was one of the best games he ever had as a Vol.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is what we need him to do. Like, he's not going to be Hendon Hooker, but we don't need him to be. We have such a good running game. You only need him to throw it 15 to 20 times a game, do some play action, take a shot or two. That's what I want. That's what I want from Joe Milton. And as long as he does that, I'm cool with him. And let him run some. Make him run some. Because he's too good of a runner for him not to be running. And that opens up a whole other dimension. That third down run he had to basically seal the game was clutch. Super, super clutch. So I couldn't be more proud of him, of the offense for pulling us off. Now, I will say defensively, it was kind of disappointing, especially in the secondary. Granted, that was without Kamal Hadden. And clearly, Kamal Hadden was a huge part of this defense. He was basically an island on one side of the field. And that's just going to be a deficiency for the rest of the season now because of that injury. But hopefully these young guys, they get some good experience and we'll be ready to go by start of next year.
And that's why it's good that they're not rushing with Nico because Joe Milton is showing promise. I think he can finish the year strong. I don't see him coming back as a starter, but again, he looks sharp. He looks good. I think he can be the starter in the remaining of the season.
Yeah. I mean, he can't come back next year. He's done after this year. And I know his legacy is going to be kind of interesting considering he didn't beat Bama or Florida. Yeah, and I'm assuming he probably won't beat Georgia, but I mean, still, like, I think he's been a good representative for the university, and he didn't quit on the team. Like, he stayed with us even when he got benched for Hendon in 21. And I will always respect that about Joe Milton, even if he hasn't been the best quarterback for Tennessee. He still has gotten us to 6-2, and we've only been at this point, this record at this point, only 5 times since 2000. So I think you know, that's just a testament to how far our program has come. But we still have a long way to go.
Oh, by the way, Texas Rangers beats Arizona Diamondbacks 3-1. It's now 2-1, 2-1 leading the series in the World Series.
2 wins away for the Texas Rangers. Let's see if they finally get it done in Arlington. But yeah, it's interesting too. Like the reactions from this game, really honestly from the Kentucky fans, like just it feels like they're completely hopeless after this game. Like they I heard some of them say, I kind of hope in the new SEC scheduling we don't play Tennessee anymore every single year because we just can't beat them.
Maybe Kentucky fans feels the same way as Vols fans against
Florida.
Alabama.
Well, I would say Florida more, but I mean, I guess Bama to an extent. But I mean, Bama's just been better, undeniably better for the most part. So
That's
that one doesn't really frustrate me as much. The Florida one's the one that frustrates me because I still think even this year we have a better team, but we just find ways to lose stupid games to Florida. So as like Kentucky's cursed against the Vols are cursed against Florida.
that's a great comparison. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I completely sympathize with them, but still, it's fun to beat them. It's fun to win in Lexington at the grocery store. Um, and I'm just very glad that we found a way to win on the road. And because I said, after last week, we have to start finding ways to win those games, and they got it done. So we're up to 6-2 now. They play homecoming this week against UConn. They're a 30-point favorite. UConn is, I believe, 1-6, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be no brainer. We're both gonna pick the Vols. It's a matter of by how much, and can they play better? Like comparing, like for example, in that Austin P game, that also was a like a beatdown game that kind of wasn't. It didn't look pretty.
Absolutely. And it's a noon game. So how much energy is there going to be? Now, I know they're probably going to come out with some sort of Pat Summitt tribute with the light blue, of course, obviously UConn, Tennessee. When we think of these two teams meeting, we think of women's basketball. It's what we normally
Yeah,
think of. This is the first time we've
yeah.
ever met in football.
I've been to a Tennessee UConn game in Thompson Bowl Arena. That wasn't a great atmosphere. I remember that. That was one of the best basketball games I have ever been. Like Tennessee came really close to beat UConn that day.
I mean, that's the best non-football rivalry we have as a school right there. That's the most intense one. Like back when Pat was still around, like when I was a kid, like UConn was massive anytime we played them. Massive deal. So you like when you grew up in East Tennessee and when Pat Summitt was the coach, you hated Gino Ariano with a burning passion. So, for Pat, let's go out there and let's blow him out. Do it for Pat. Because I know she is hoping that we beat the crap out of UConn.
Yeah, definitely. If she coach as hard as she did to beat Gino Ariema, she obviously is rooting for the football team to be UConn.
Absolutely, and I think they should have no issue with it. 7-2 to get to 7-2, and just it's good for them to be in this spot, and obviously SEC East wise, the position where Tennessee is in, if Georgia somehow loses to Missouri or Ole Miss, then Tennessee would control their own destiny. Now, I don't think that's very likely to happen. But just imagine if Georgia loses one of these two games and then Tennessee wins at Missouri next week. The atmosphere at Neyland for the SEC East Championship game. I think
Wow.
the atmosphere is going to be crazy regardless.
Yeah, definitely. I think fans are gonna show up and because no matter if this game decides the division or not, it's gonna be a big matchup because it's gonna be the number against the number one team in the country or a top five team because if they lose, I don't think they're gonna fall really bad. And and last year the Vols came really close to beat them in Athens.
Well, I wouldn't say we came really close to beating them in Athens. We kind of got ran out of the stadium early.
Yeah,
I,
I
so,
was being nice.
yeah. We haven't really come close to being Georgia since we beat them last time. I mean, they've blown us out every single time.
I mean, I think was like 2019 that we lead at halftime.
2020 when we left at halftime. So, and I guess
Oh
that
yeah,
was
that's true. Oh my God, 2020, the beginning of the end for Jamie Pruitt era.
right. Remember the first 6 quarters of that season were amazing, and then it all fell downhill in the second half at Georgia.
Yeah, that second half against Georgia, that was the beginning of the end for Jamie Pruitt.
Yeah, Jared Garantano. I mean, he looked very good in the first half, but man, he fell apart there. So it was just disappointing for sure.
But in terms of this game, I think the Vols beat UConn. Let's see, what is the line? -36. I think the Vols cover the spread. It's gonna be like 50-10.
I'm gonna go a little bit more conservative. Give me like 35-14.
Oh, very conservative.
Yeah, it's a noon game. I would like to see him come out. I need to see him come out with that intensity, but I'm obviously not that concerned about them losing. So, all right. And some other Tennessee adjacent news here. This is the Michigan controversy that kind of continues, and then the twist and turns of this story. Because I feel like we've been downplaying it, but now some rumors have come out that Michigan might have been helping certain teams to try to win certain games to alter the course of the college football playoffs last year. And one of them allegedly might have been South Carolina. Allegedly, they had special wristbands that video evidence has shown that they didn't wear in any other game last year besides Tennessee and Clemson. And the rumor is Michigan helped South Carolina steal Tennessee's signals and helped them pull off that upset. Do you think that this is a plausible theory or this is just a rabid conspiracy?
College football fans love rabid, deep conspiracy. I it's 2023. Like it's not 1980. It's not 1990. Come on, what kind of a special video camera a Michigan staff would have that would have film what an average fan films? Like, come on, this is getting way out of proportion. Like, come on, again, is it we are in the technology age, like we have cameras everywhere.
Right. Like, and I don't think that even if South Carolina had all Tennessee signals, that excuses the Vols from giving up 63 points. Nor would it change Hendon Hooker tearing his ACL. Like, Michigan didn't cause either one of those things to happen. Tennessee caused those things to happen. And I think it's just some fans' inability to accept what happened that night. 'Cause, yeah, that is a devastating loss. We probably would have made the playoffs with that win. But we lost. And that's just something that this program will have to live with until we make the playoffs. I mean, it just is what it is. And some people have to learn to accept that Tennessee lost that football game.
Yeah, and move on with their and and I saw rumors that Michigan might be banned for postseason, like especially college football playoff. That's ridiculous. That's beyond ridiculous.
Well, maybe they should be banned for their schedule. I mean, they haven't played anybody this year. It's,
I mean, don't blame them, but blame the conference. That's why Big Ten got UCLA and USC because then the Big Ten schools are weak. Not
well, I
it's
mean,
not
they
me.
didn't schedule anyone in their non-con. Though. I mean, their best non-con opponent was East Carolina. I mean, Ohio State went out and played Notre Dame at Notre Dame.
Yeah, but they're not breaking any rules in terms of scheduling. Non-con is like you can schedule whoever you want, and if they want to
Right.
schedule East Carolina,
Yeah, I mean, they should have the right to schedule whoever they want, but it's not exactly like they're. I mean, granted, Tennessee's schedule this year wasn't exactly great either. I mean,
how about
our best
Georgia?
non-con.
Who Georgia played?
No, well, Georgia Tech actually turned out to be a somewhat okay team, but otherwise, like, yeah, the rest of their non-con was awful. So, I mean, Alabama they played Texas and they lost to them. So, oh man, there's a guy I listen to. The whole like who have they played thing like it's just a constant talking point between people just trying to dash each other's teams. But legitimately, Michigan, I mean, I know they have been super impressive so far this year, but I really need to see them against Penn State and Ohio State here in a few weeks.
Yeah, so I guess Michigan is preparing for the games that are really gonna matter, especially that rivalry game in the last weekend of November.
Yeah, and Ohio State fans, man, they are running around chirping on the internet. They have been craving this Michigan game like all season. They want Michigan so bad.
Especially after losing back-to-back years.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's going to be an incredible game in Ann Arbor, I think. So yeah, but speaking of a game that's not going to be incredible, the Palmetto Bowl, South Carolina and Clemson, they both lost again. South Carolina to Texas A&M, Clemson on the road at NC State in the Textile Bowl. South Carolina now 2-6, Clemson 4-4. I mean, holy cow! Well, I mean, which one of those records is more shocking?
Clemson, because the coaching that Clemson have, and but Clemson definitely struggling with quarterback after Trevor Lawrence left. No quarterback took over.
Yep. Yep. I mean, they had DJ Ukulele, who now is at Oregon State, and Cade Klubnik he isn't good. He is not any good. And also, too, they don't have elite athletes on the edges. They don't have any elite receivers. They don't have elite running backs. They're just an average offense right now. And for Clemson, that's unacceptable. I mean, this is why you have to use the transfer portal. Um, and this is why fans are criticizing him. Now, Dabo, just this evening, fresh off the wires, Clemson had their fan call-in show. I saw the whole clip's like 5 minutes long, so I don't want to play the whole thing, but I will read just a little bit of this from Chapel Fowler on Clemson. He covers Clemson. He says Dabo Swinney ripped into a fan who asked him why Clemson's paying him a huge salary just to go 4-4. Dabo said, "You're part of the problem." Also says to the fan, Tyler, "If you want to apply for the job, go for it, and good luck to you." And he also said, Dabo said, "To answer your question, I started as the lowest paid coach in this business. I worked my ass off. I'm not going to let this smart ass kid get on the phone and tell me how to do my job. I work for the board of trustees." And apparently, according to the journalist, he says that this is the highest he has been all season. So, what do you think about Dabo telling a fan that on a call-in show?
First of all, as he pointed out, how can the high, a top tier coach needs to respond fans on a calling show? Like that's something beneath you. Like you're never gonna win an argument against the fan on a calling show because fans like fans that call on a call-in show, as we know, we worked on a radio station that took calls. They call to vent, to criticize. Happy fans don't call radio stations call-in shows.
Right, man. It's like that the news station. Like, not happy people just don't come. Hey, News 12, how's your day going? I'm doing well. It's like, hey, News 12, this person is stalking me. The police did me wrong. I'm getting screwed at work. People call when there's a problem. And call-in shows are one of those hilarious things about about college football that it's just unique to the sport. In terms of coaches having to directly answer to the fans.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I agree.
apparently Dabo also told him, "You're not going to talk to me like I'm a 12-year-old."
Come on, Dabo. Like, just be polite with the fan. Like, just said some like a PR answer. Don't feed into this narrative. Don't feed into what the fan want, which is the emotional reaction.
I mean, because Dabo the past few weeks, he has said we need to lose some to load in the bandwagon. He said a psychologist last week was suicidal. In the offseason, we don't need the transfer portal because we have God's NIL. I mean, it's just the dude constantly says the stupidest things. I mean, he's digging himself a grave as a coach.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
just is
Dabo,
unbelievable.
like I feel like every Monday we have a our pod is reacting to something Dabo Swaney did that was stupid.
Exactly, and that's not a good thing. If you're constantly reappearing, who was it that we were constantly reacting to? I think it was a Brazilian coach that was saying
Oh,
stupid stuff.
oh my God. Yeah, that's true. I forgot who it was.
Wasn't it the Flamingo guy?
Oh, Vitor Pereira. Vitor
Yes,
Pereira.
that's what it's starting to remind me of. As soon Dad was going to bring out my mother-in-law
Is out and
is
sick.
beating me.
My mother-in-law is sick in Portugal. I need to leave college football, and I can't coach for a year. And then he shows up in South Carolina, in Columbia.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a move Urban Meyer would do.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, God. But yeah, South Carolina and Clemson, man, that's just hilarious how both of them have fallen apart. Thinking of a team that's falling apart and needs a change. Yeah, North Carolina. I mean, they were top 10 undefeated, back-to-back weeks, lost to Virginia at home on homecoming, then went on the road to Georgia Tech and lost again. They have no defense. Mac Brown, I'm sorry, I know he's getting good recruits up there, but he has wasted both Sam Howell and now Drake May. North Carolina needs to change a coach.
yeah. Like I know Mac Brown got the national championship for the Longhorns, and he will always be remembered for that. But let's be real, like that was more like a Vince Young title than the Mac Brown. But yeah, like North Carolina is always a team that is hyped up and always falls apart mid-season. That's always the script. And the Detroit Lions just beat the Raiders 26-14.
Yep. It's just a bad loss for
Devontae Adams, no touchdowns, 6 targets. I mean, he looked awful, and also he is mad. He left to the locker room before anybody.
Yeah, I mean they couldn't throw him the ball. Like the times I saw him get thrown to, it was overthrown, uncatchable stuff. God, he needs to be freed. He needs to go somewhere else. Send him to Tennessee. Put him with a real quarterback. Hey, can you imagine
Wow.
Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins though? Oh man,
Yeah, like
you're gonna have me talking like it's 2020 back up in here.
yeah, it's like it's like not it's like 2000 all over again.
Yeah, because remember when we had AJ Brown and Julio Jones, and we all thought the Titans were going to win the Super Bowl. At least, so at least some people we knew were. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, some
but
Chattanooga residents.
yeah, well, more like Murfreesboro, but
That's true.
anyway. Um, yeah. Speaking of upset, though, congratulations to the Jayhawks, Rock Chalk Jayhawks. You called it, Gus, in the picks
I
last
call
week.
it. I call it. I call it.
Yeah, Kansas.
Yeah,
Um,
like shout out to my best friend and KU alum Italo Costa. He was crying after that game. He
they
was
should. I mean, it
like
was
he
like
was
us
celebrating.
beating Bama last year.
Yeah, like he was celebrating really bad, and he was all over the place.
Yeah, as he definitely should have been. I mean, just an excellent win for Kansas. Really, really bad loss for Oklahoma though, because now they've got some tough games left. There's a chance they might not even make the Big 12 championship. Could you imagine, like, going into the SEC and they don't win the Big 12? I think that's a bad sign because they still have at Oklahoma State, West Virginia, at BYU, TCU.
Yeah, yeah, and the AP poll they fall only 4 spots. I thought the AP poll was nice to them.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas was ranked earlier this year, so they're not like bad, you know. So I
But
think that's fair.
yeah, I guess.
But this week's going to be huge. That Bedlam game with Oklahoma State, that's huge. That's in Stillwater, and the folks in Stillwater are out for blood this week.
Oh yeah, like, and that game means a lot for Oklahoma State head coach as well. God,
Mike Gundy.
Mike Gundy. Like, if he wins this game, he's remaining. But if he loses, I don't know.
Yeah, well, they've had a really good turnaround because remember they lost early in the year to South Alabama
Alabama,
and got blown out.
yes, South Alabama. Oh my.
Yeah, it was 33-7, but they've turned it around significantly, and that's going to be a huge game this week.
Yeah, tickets are going for $350.
Yeah, I mean, they got to do something about these college football tickets, man. It's getting out of control. Like,
Yeah, I
how's the average
agree.
person supposed to go to a big game?
Yeah, like, for example, even Michigan hosting Purdue's like $100. Like, wow.
Yeah, and that's for Purdue.
Yeah. But give me Oklahoma State. I think they're gonna upset.
Hmm. Definitely a big pick there. I'll go OU in that one for sure. All right. So, quick notes: Oregon dominated Utah game of the week. I think Oregon is a definite playoff contender. I think they're on a crash course to get back to Washington. Another game of Washington in the
Hmm.
Pac-12.
I don't know, because maybe if they win the Pac-12 championship, and but they will have to, because I don't see Ohio State and Michigan staying out of the playoff only if one of them loses a game before the Ohio State Michigan game. Because as we saw last year, a one-loss Ohio State got to the playoffs. They're
I'll
gonna remain.
Okay, I'll say this: because of Michigan's schedule, they should be punished. If they don't finish undefeated, I would not put an 11-1 Michigan in the playoff.
But they're gonna put, like last year Ohio State was in the playoffs.
But then again, Ohio State had played Notre Dame in the regular season as well. And that's the difference. Ohio State actually played a good team in the regular season in the non-con. Michigan has not. So I would punish Michigan.
Mm. But but Washington. But how about Florida State? Florida State looked really sharp against Wake Forest on the road. I got to see a little bit of that game, and I think Florida State, they're here to stay. I don't see them losing any game in the ACC. I
Yeah,
think,
they're gonna win it. Yeah, they'll be in the playoff.
yeah, they're going to be the playoff. And what a season by Jordan Travis. I mean, what, like 2,109 yards to 18 touchdowns? This guy is a Heisman contender.
I would definitely agree because right now when you look at the playoff contenders, see, I mean, you definitely think Georgia, whoever wins Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, and then
Washington, like maybe if they can win out, like
yeah,
like the scenarios are gonna be, let's say, tomorrow actually the first college football playoff rankings come up. I wonder how different it's gonna be from the AP poll.
yeah. Right now you have because I guess right now you would have undefeated Washington, one loss Texas, one loss Oregon.
I think my cutout is like Texas. Like I don't see Alabama getting in, Penn State getting in, or Oklahoma getting in.
Now, if Alabama wins this week against LSU, though, I mean they'll win the SEC West. If they can be 11-1 heading into the SEC title game, they will 100% have a shot.
But only if they beat Georgia, because then an 11-1 Bama beating Georgia, I think gets in instead of Georgia.
But then what happens to a 12-1 Georgia? Do they still get in? I mean, what's their most impressive one of the year? Like legitimately, what is the most impressive one they have in the regular season? It probably would be Missouri or Tennessee.
I would love some. I mean, I love college football playoff chaos. That's something that's true. Like that could be chaos if Alabama wins out and got to 12-1. Georgia, gets to be undefeated but loses the SEC championship to Bama. Both stays 11-1, and then Michigan or Ohio State will be a one-loss team, and then we have to see if Florida State and Washington could remain undefeated, and like how the committee is going to count a one-loss Big Ten, a top Big Ten, and a one-loss big SEC school against the undefeated ACC or undefeated Pac-12.
Right, because I think you would still have to evaluate a one-loss SEC over a one-loss Big Ten. But I think you have to evaluate a one-loss Pac-12 over both of those conferences. I think Pac-12 is the best conference in the country this year. I've been consistently saying that for weeks now. And I would take a one-loss Oregon over a one-loss Michigan. And I would consider one-loss Oregon over one-loss Alabama.
Yeah, like the committee is gonna have definitely a hard time.
Absolutely. And that's going to be fun to watch. But, normally at the end of the day, we sit here and talk about all these playoff scenarios, but it ultimately takes care of itself for sure. It just absolutely takes care of itself. Some other notes I wanted to bring up. Pittsburgh, Pat Narduzzi. Pittsburgh's just had a horrific year. Horrible year. They're 2-6. 2-6 this year, and they lost 58-7 to Notre Dame on Saturday. Pat Narduzzi absolutely threw his players under the bus. He said, quote, he said it's at least a 14. Let's see. He said that we lost a lot of good players last year. We thought we'd replace them, and we obviously didn't do a good job with that. Wow. I mean, just throwing your players under the bus. And all of his players on Twitter were just like, what in the world did our coach just say? I mean, wow. Just the Pittsburgh Panthers are falling apart. And some world they actually managed to beat Louisville. This is a team that's not behind their coach. I think they're going to have to replace him because as a coach, you cannot come. I've actually got a video clip of it right here. I'm going to try to share it because this is a pretty crazy clip. I can share. So,
Yeah.
I just want your reaction to these comments.
When you lose like you lost today, you had a tough one last week. Why is it? I'll go back. I mean, as a football coach, you lose a lot of good players a year ago. You think as a coach you're gonna replace them. We obviously have, and you know, again, it starts with me. I didn't do a good enough job coaching today. Put it on me. We gotta make plays. When you lose like
Yeah, so he
Oh, hold
said,
on. Can you put it again? Just want to see the
yeah,
the player.
look at these players, and let me see if I can get up a little bit closer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Put this sound. You can put this.
why is it? I'll go back. I mean, as a football coach, you lose a lot of
No,
good
ain't
players
no
a year
way I'm
ago. You
reading
think
this
as a
right.
coach you're gonna replace them. We obviously have, and
You got the
it starts with
emojis.
me.
Oh my god.
I didn't do a good enough job coaching today.
Just the
Put it on me.
dots.
We gotta make plays. When you lose like you lost
And then
today,
this
Like-
guy's like, "Little crazy world."
Like literally, Pitt had an impressive win against a top-ranked team, Louisville, and he's like undervaluing his players. Come on.
Yeah, Pat Narduzzi is kind of a clown. He got lucky that he had Kenny Pickett a few years ago. I think he might get fired. Because here's the thing, I mean, his locker room, who's going to play for him?
Yeah, like transfer portal. I mean, college football coaches can definitely start looking at some really good Pittsburgh players in the transfer portal.
Oh, easily. It is definitely time for a new coach here in Pittsburgh. Speaking of new coaches, Iowa will be looking for a new OC. They finally are getting rid of Brian Ferentz. Finally. It is V-Day in Iowa because they have been screaming about this for a very long time. And because Iowa has an amazing defense, they just can't score. They just cannot score.
Yeah, their offense look atrocious. Like it's always a low scoring game because they can't do anything in offense.
Right. And Phil Parker, I feel so bad for this guy. He's the defensive coordinator for Iowa. He might be the most underrated coach in all of America because he's constantly having to carry an awful offense.
Yeah, that's true.
So good for Iowa. Maybe they can finally find someone who knows what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. Also, shout out to Oregon State. How do you fake a field goal at the end of the half, not even come close to scoring, and then you end up losing by 3 to Arizona in an upset loss? I mean, that fake field goal for no reason lost in the game. And knocked them out of the playoff contention because Oregon State could have been one of those sneaky playoff contenders at the end, especially with the situation they're in, and they just threw it all away for no reason.
No, definitely. They throw away. Now they're out of any contention, definitely. And sometimes you want to be sneaky, but can't out sneak yourself.
Exactly. I hate it because I wanted them to be relevant in November because of their situation. So.
Yeah, like maybe this loss cost them a spot in a good conference.
It could. It very well could. So it's just absolutely terrible. Other CFP reaction: Georgia dominated Florida. They're still clearly the cream of the crop in the East, at least for now. A&M. Well, we're talking about A&M, South Carolina. Auburn beat Miss State. Ole Miss beat Vandy. Not really any surprises there, in my mind. I don't know if there's any other college games that stood out to you. Miami had to go to OT against Virginia. And once again, Mario Cristobal, he had a chance to win it in regulation, but he sat on it. Went to OT for the second straight game.
Oh, or how about Penn State struggling against Indiana?
Oh, yeah. James Franklin, his seat is getting hot.
Yeah. At one point, I think he was like down by 7. I mean, I know he took over late second quarter and then dominated the second half, but against 0-4 Indiana in the Big Ten, I don't know. Like,
they're not beating Michigan.
Definitely, they're not beating Michigan. Louisville, good win against Duke. Of course, Duke now back into caring about basketball. Like for a moment, they were a football school. I guess they're not anymore.
Yeah, also this though about Washington. They're kind of struggling right now. They struggled to beat Arizona State last week. They struggled to beat Stanford this week. That's concerning. I am kind of concerned about them.
And how about USC? Coming back from like a double-digit deficit to win against Cal.
Why do they still have Alex Grinch as their defensive coordinator? Why
Yeah.
have they not fired him? I mean, that defense is just embarrassing.
Yeah, I think out of the ranked teams, I think they were the team that is they gave the most points in the week 9. I mean, even North Carolina, who lost to Georgia Tech, gave up 46.
Right. It's just pathetic how bad USC's defense is. They're not getting anywhere close to a title game. Also, Colorado did not have an offense this week. They lost 28-16 to UCLA.
I think a lot of people hyped up Colorado. I know it was a fun story, and there were people even asking for Coach Prime, Deion Sanders to be in the NFL. But I think everybody expect Colorado to be average, and they are 4-4 right now. I think they're gonna go to a bowl game, but they face TCU and Nebraska to begin the year, and both are not ranked. They're far ahead to be relevant. I know TCU was ranked because still, kind of like still some of the back, some of the rest of being the losing in the national title game, so that's why they were ranked. But I think Colorado are going to the transfer portal to find their answers, and Shadur Sanders, I definitely won't think I think he's gonna stay in college for another year.
Oh, easy. I mean, he's a college guy. I don't see him ever coaching in the NFL.
No, and Shadur Sanders should stay in the NFL for another year.
Definitely. He's not ready. Of course, they had Oregon State this week. So looking ahead to this week, what do we think as underrated game and upset alert?
So upset alert. I'm taking a look at the games right now. How about maybe USC beating Washington to create more chaos?
I can start to see that. That's not at home. Washington isn't playing good right now. I know I've criticized this coach a ton, but I've got a feeling here. How about Texas A&M at Ole Miss? It's a noon game. It'll be 11 a.m. in the Grove. I think A&M obviously had a good win last week against South Carolina, and I just still don't trust this Ole Miss team. There's something about them I don't trust. Give me the Aggies, and plus Ole Miss goes to Georgia next week, so this could be a trap game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but still, Ole Miss is 7-1. I mean, I think Lane Kiffin still. I think he's not going to get fired or anything. I think he's going to remain for not a long time. But I mean, I think Ole Miss fans, they're not like happy. They're not bright and shine, but definitely 7-1 in the West is good.
Yeah,
but
also
that's
shout
true.
out Jacksonville State in South Carolina. 7-2 Jacksonville State, the first year in the FBS. They could upset South Carolina.
Yeah, I think they already beat top tier team. I think it was like Florida State a couple years ago.
Yes. Also, don't be surprised. Well, Maryland's on a free game losing streak, but hosting Penn State, that's a dangerous game for Penn State.
Yeah, that's a trap game, but I think it's going to be close, but I think Penn State still won that game. Oh, my upset alert. Definitely Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma. I call it, I think, give me McGundy.
Yeah. Also, in terms of an underrated game, Ohio State at Rutgers this week. I think that is a super fascinating game. Rutgers is bowl eligible. They're 6-2. I mean, talk about what a defining win it would be for Greg Schiano to take out Ohio State.
That's true.
So I don't know if they have the horsepower.
Yeah, I mean they're bowl eligible. That's as good as it gets.
Oh, absolutely at Rutgers. Also that Notre Dame Clemson, I alluded to it earlier, but that man, like if Gustavo wants to salvage something out of the season, that feels like a must win for him.
I agree. Yeah, because they still needs to win 2 games to be bowl eligible, and imagine not being bowl eligible. That would be a disaster.
Also, shout out to Virginia Tech, Louisville. Whoever wins this game controls their destiny. Virginia Tech included. Virginia Tech is 4-1 in conference play, or 3-1 in conference play. They only have one loss in the ACC. Like, and theoretically, there is a path here where Virginia Tech goes to the ACC title game if they somehow pull off this upset at 7-5.
Yeah, I guess Florida State is waiting for his opponent.
Absolutely. And also another game to watch here. Nebraska at Michigan State. If Nebraska wins, they reach bowl eligibility for the first time since 2016.
Yeah, what a it's a interesting turnaround by Matt Rule. I mean, first season, getting to a bowl eligibility, that's something Scott Frost never was able to do.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting games this week. That's for sure. UCLA, Arizona. That's going to be a great Pac-12 after dark game, I think. Arkansas, Florida. That feels like Sam Pittman's last stand almost, but I mean Mississippi State. I felt like was the beginning of the end for him. Yeah. Well, let's get into some of the picks here. So I think we've already picked Oklahoma State. You said you have USC beating Washington. I'm going to still stick with Washington winning that game. How about we have a top 25 matchup here? Kansas State, number 25, going to number 7, Texas. Can KSU beat Texas again?
That feels like a trap game, like you said, can be for Ole Miss and also for Penn State. For Texas, can be a trap game. Kansas State is a team that fights hard, but I still think Longhorns get a win.
I'm feeling an upset here. I don't really trust Sark in Texas right now. I know they won 35-6 last week against BYU, but they're on their backup quarterback right now. They only beat Houston by a touchdown 2 weeks ago, and Kansas State blew them out 41-0. I like Kansas State.
I mean, if Texas loses, then they're out of the playoffs for sure.
How about, of course, potentially the SEC East Championship game here? If Georgia wins, it's basically done, unless they lose to Ole Miss next week. Any chance Mizzou shocks the world?
On the road, no. Give me Georgia.
Yeah, this is the one time I'm going to be rooting for Eli Drinkwitz, but I just don't see it happening. Give me UGA.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a great upset. I mean, think about it. Last time, it wasn't like the last time Missouri went to Athens. It made the Georgia Bulldogs, fight into the fourth quarter to beat them.
Right. That was last year. And hey, the only time Missouri's ever beaten Georgia was in Athens in 2015. So, but yeah, with this team, I think Athens will be on fire for this one. I don't see Missouri handling it well.
Yeah, me too. Give me Georgia.
And the game.
No, you know what? You know what? Give me Missouri. Give me Missouri.
Hey, let's go. MIZZOU, please.
Mizzou.
Yeah. Next week though, we'll be bashing Missouri. So for this week only, I'm rooting for Missouri.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, the game of the week, as it always is, first week of November, it seems like Nick Saban, Alabama versus Brian Kelly and LSU. Effectively, this is the SEC West title game. Of course, LSU pulled off the upset in Tiger Stadium last year, and now LSU will be making the return trip to Tuscaloosa. Of course, last time we saw Bama, they got revenge on Tennessee for one of their 2 losses. Can they get revenge for their other loss against LSU?
Yeah, I think Bama. I mean, it's funny that last season they were playing better than this season, but they lost to both of their rivals. But I think even though they're not playing well, they're gonna find a way to win it. Give me Bama.
You know what? I mean, I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. It's going to go down to the end. But right now, I think LSU's offense is playing lights out. And I think, LSU's, I mean, their defense has been their handicap all year, but I think they have gotten slightly better. The pass rush, just slightly better. Now it's going to be put to the ultimate test here on Saturday night. But I think LSU can do what Tennessee was unable to do. I think the Tigers find a way.
Yeah, and how about tomorrow? Let's topic of college football. Who's gonna be the top 4 for the college football committee? Who's gonna be the first 4 picks for the first college football rankings?
I think they're going to go with Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington. Or Florida State. I'll go Florida State.
I'm gonna go Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington.
Now, the way it should be, the way I would rank them is Georgia, Florida State, Ohio State, Washington.
And where Michigan falls?
I'll put them at 5.
I mean, are you so? I guess you take their weaker schedule really, really serious.
Yes. Because Georgia, they're playing an SEC schedule. They've trying to say, I think they have played at least one ranked team, if I'm correct. Then again, maybe they haven't. Maybe I shouldn't put Georgia 1. Maybe I should put Ohio State at 1. Maybe I should put Ohio State at 1. Maybe Ohio State at 1. Maybe Florida State at 2.
So Ohio State 1, Georgia State. Ohio State 1, Florida State 2,
Washington 3, Georgia 4, Michigan 5.
Wow. I mean, a lot of people would have been mad at you.
Yeah. As I said, you got to play some better teams.
That's true, because if the committee would send a message like you put out, then teams will start to scheduling a better opponents, because then you reward teams that take risks. Because right now you are rewarding teams that do not take risks, because Michigan and Georgia have really weaker non-con schedules, and they get reward for this.
Yep. It's just not. It's just not fair if they're playing weak schedules to me. Okay, some other quick notes here. Really quick, college basketball is about to start back. Next week, we should do a preview of college basketball. But this week, we had some exhibitions. The basketballs went to East Lansing, Michigan State, and won 89-88 in a crazy game. Man, it would have been insane if this were a real game that counted, but it was just for practice. But still an amazing game. Dalton Knecht and Jalen Gainey, 2 of our new additions from the transfer portal, looked awesome. Knecht had 28, Gainey had 20, and we won on the road at Michigan State without Santiago Vescovi, who was dealing with a family situation in Argentina or Uruguay. And Zakai Ziegler is still recovering from his injury. So I'm excited for basketballs this year. And if Dalton Knecht can play like that throughout the year and be a guy we can go to when we need points, that might be the missing piece that we have been missing. So I am hopeful, to say the least. The FEMA tonight, I am hopeful on this pre-Hallows Eve.
Yeah, I didn't got to watch the game, but well, from I saw the pictures, it was a really roaring crowd. I mean, that's why probably we talk about conference football scheduling, but how about basketball scheduling? Because if you think about it, teams also do not get reward for scheduling harder opponents in basketball.
I mean, you kind of do though. Like you can lose a lot more games with a hard schedule and still get a good seed. Um, like Tennessee, we schedule pretty hard. We have a lot of really hard games this year, but that's a good thing. That means you can afford to lose some of them. And in college football with a 12-team playoff, I think it's going to be the same way. So, and I think honestly, this is more analogous to spring games. I want to see competitive spring games, not just
Yeah,
playing against themselves. Like imagine if we play like a real game.
that's fair. I mean, do you know like it could be like a kind of like a spring bowl kind of. Imagine like if you face another team, you could kind of create like a oh, there's a big fight in the Arizona Chicago Blackhawks in the NHL. Arizona's up by like 7-1.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, they're getting punches, but I'll say though, I again we as we discussed, as much as we watch the regular season in college basketball, it's all comes down to March.
Yep. And I just hope that this team develops in a way that they peak in March. Um, Speaking of a team that's probably not going to be around in March, Louisville. My God, they lost for the second straight year in an exhibition to a Division II school, Kentucky Wesleyan. Tonight, 71-68. I just feel bad for Louisville fans. I mean, just it's terrible. Kenny Payne's got to go. Hopefully, he gets fired this year because he ain't it. He is not it for Louisville. Um, I don't know who it's going to take for Louisville to get back to where they should be in basketball, which is a top tier program.
Not Rick Pitino.
Please God, not Rick Barnes.
No,
Stay
I said
away
Rick.
from him.
No, Rick
Yes, definitely not
Pitino.
Rick Pitino.
I was gonna say not Rick Pitino.
Yeah, and he himself, he just lost to a D2 school as well with St. John's. He's starting with St. John's this year. They lost to a school called Pace. I've never even heard of them. So definitely a lot of struggling going on early on. Real quick, of course, NBA started last week. First and foremost, they've been advertising the crap out of this NBA in-season tournament, and it starts Friday night. I could care less about it. Like, I think this is a fake attempt to create some early season ratings. I just don't see anyone caring about this.
So, like, explain, like, what is like, I guess it's like a tournament inside of the NBA season.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm guessing that
It's like the FA Cup. Like, for example, they play a cup style inside the Premier League.
so all 67 games across both stages of the in-season tournament will count towards the regular season standings except the championship. So basically there's 6 groups of 5. And those teams will play every Tuesday and Friday in November. And then there's just all kinds of like little rules, and then there'll be a playoff in December. I guess it's kind of an interesting concept, but I'm really curious to see how this is in real time. Like, will there be teams that prioritize winning the in-season tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept because as a soccer fan, I like the cups that goes along with the season, like Brazilian Cup, the FA Cup, but I it's just it's a testament of how the NBA knows that starting in October makes no sense.
Yep. Yep. Because really December is when most of us really care. Now, granted, I did watch the Spurs and the Mavericks last week just to watch Victor Wembanyama, and I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of underwhelmed with his first game. He felt like he was really getting bodied a lot down low, and that he wasn't very physical. But I have seen in other games he has looked better. Granted, last night they lost by 40 to the Clippers. So I
Yeah,
think
but
he's got a lot of work to do. He was only 4 of 10 last night, only 11 points.
yeah, and as of right now, I know the standings doesn't matter, but you know the favorites are leading. I mean, how about the Memphis Grizzlies? 0-4. The only alongside Houston, they are both the only teams that did not get a win. But Houston, you expect to tank, but Memphis Grizzlies last year they were a contender and they're 0-4.
Yeah, they're missing Jaw right now. I mean, and this is the problem with John Moran. Yeah, his selfish actions are directly leading to the Memphis Grizzlies struggling early on. I mean, they'll probably have a losing record by the time he gets back.
But how bad of a losing record? Because that's the problem. Because if the losing record is really bad, maybe John Moran won't be able to save the season.
Yeah,
And then you even bring him back. Then you shut down for the year, and then you think about 2024, 2025.
I mean, I think honestly, this gun incident may have ruined their entire year, which is crazy to think about. But um, yeah, they got to start winning some games, find some way get some wins. Their next opportunity is going to be in Utah against the Jazz. So yeah, but that's really kind of my brief NBA thoughts. Of course, as she said, it's early. Doesn't really matter that right now, but we'll see what happens. Quick NASCAR, because this week was actually kind of interesting. So this was the second to last weekend. Ryan Blaney got his second one of the playoffs. He's going to the Final Four at Martinsville. He is advanced to the final. Well, the Final Four is going to be in Phoenix. He won at Martinsville. He's going to be racing alongside Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and William Byron to race for the championship. And I'll say overall, that's a pretty deserving Final Four. All four of those drivers have raced very well in these playoffs. They've raced well throughout the season. I think one of those four winning the title will, in this particular format, will be fair. But I will say this, the storyline here is Denny Hamlin. Once again, he has 52 career wins, still cannot win a championship, and gets eliminated again at Martinsville in the round of 8. He just can't get it done. Something always goes wrong. And this year, what happened was he lost his steering clutch at Miami last week. Of course, last year was the Hell Melon, the Ross Chastain move that he just floored it in the outside wall. So just unfortunate for Denny. I don't think he's ever going to win one. He's going to go down as the best driver to never win a championship. He's like
like Dan Marino.
Yeah, Dan Marino, Charles Barkley. He's that type of athlete. Just crazy how this man finds different ways to lose championships, and he's like 40. He's running out of time to win.
I mean, if NASCAR championship was the same way as Formula One, he would definitely have a title.
I don't even know about that. I'd have to look back at the format, but I think I read somewhere where even if it was like that, he still wouldn't have one. He's just too inconsistent. But so I don't know. He might have one if it were like a full regular season situation, but I'm not completely sure. Martin Truex, though, he had the regular season title this year and just collapsed completely. A horrific playoff run. He only had one top 15 finish in 9 races. Man, just a bad season. Bad finish for Martin Truex Jr. I think he is nearing the end of his career as well. And my pick for the title in Phoenix is going to be Kyle Larson. He's been up and down all year. He either wins or he crashes, it feels like, but it's in a one race playoff. I trust Kyle Larson to get it done. Who do you have between Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Byron, and Blaney?
Kyle Larson.
Yeah. Also, in another side note, NASCAR wise, Richard Childress. So this is in the second tier series, Xfinity. So basically, he had two of his drivers, Austin Hill in the 21, Sheldon Creed in the 2. They were racing for the Xfinity one, and if one of them won, they moved on to the second tier Final Four, the Xfinity Series Final Four. But basically, one of his Sheldon Creed basically knocked Austin Hill out of the way, and that led to him getting wrecked. And then Sheldon Creed himself got knocked out of the way, and they both lost. They both missed out on the championship four. And Richard Childress was so mad he called his own driver stupid because he's about to leave the team anyway, and said that that was super selfish of him. And all I'm going to say on this is he was trying to win. He was trying to win the race. He was trying to get his team, the number 2 team, to the playoff. At that point in time, you don't owe anything to your teammate. You just don't. It's racing. It's every man for himself at the end. I don't know if you would feel different when it comes to racing and you have a teammate in that situation, but I think if you race as hard as you do and you've gone through an entire season, you have a chance to go to a championship. You have every right to do what you need to do to win that race to get to the championship, and for your owner to turn on you, even when you're about to leave, it's just a disgrace. And honestly, if I'm a driver, I wouldn't want to go race for Richard Childress. So it just definitely not excellent. But moving on to some soccer real quick. Lady Vol Soccer, I saw a little bit of their ending against Auburn. Unfortunately, they lost 2-1, got eliminated from the NCAA tournament. Probably won't make the NCAA tournament. They just, from the little bit I got to see, they just really couldn't establish any possession against Auburn. But they had taken a 1-0 lead, but then they gave up 2 goals. So just unfortunate. You definitely feel they missed Brian Penske.
And he's now in Tallahassee.
Yeah. Yeah, so just lots of rebuilding to do for the Lady Vol soccer team over there in Regal Soccer Stadium. Also, shout out to the U.S. women's team. They beat Colombia 3-0. I think they're playing a lot of younger players right now, trying to recalibrate that lineup so that they can kind of erase the embarrassment that was this year's World Cup in New Zealand. And we have some NBA or MLS playoffs. I know Nashville lost to Orlando tonight. And Gus, I'm assuming you have some of the other scores on MLS.
It's a best of 3 series. So I was watching the Seattle game. They dominated Dallas 2-0. So that was but for me the most impressive win was the 8th seed Sporting KC annihilating St. Louis 4-1. I know it was a home game and all, and there's still 2 more games to be played, but wow, like 4-1 in St. Louis. Wow. I mean,
that's pretty crazy.
That was pretty crazy. Cincinnati 3-0 against the Red Bulls, not surprised. Houston 2-1 against Real Salt Lake. LAFC 5-2 against Vancouver. Philadelphia 3-1 against New England. For me, non-surprising results. And so, as you said, Nashville lost tonight against Orlando, but there's still game 2 to be played. And if they win, they're going to go to game 3. Tomorrow, Atlanta United travels to Columbus, Ohio to play the Columbus Crew. And then on Saturday, games 2 starts for New York Red Bulls face Cincinnati and Dallas to face Seattle. And for me, I'll be curious to watch the Kansas City and St. Louis, because if KC wins, the 8th seed will upset the 1st seed.
I mean,
and
also,
I call
the
it.
whole Red Bull thing. Like, I mean, you got to wonder, for Charlotte and St. Louis. I mean, I know they're new teams. There's the inexperience, maybe.
Yeah. When Atlanta, I covered their first season, and they had a good squad, but they were eliminated by a weaker but more experienced Columbus Crew at that time. I think experience counts in that point. But still, like Sporting KC is showing dominance in the Midwest, because it's a little bit of a derby because it's the state of Missouri against the state of Kansas because Kansas City Sporting KC, they're from Kansas City, Kansas. They
Right, 'cause
like
their
to say
stadium is next to the racetrack, I think, if I'm correct.
yes, yes, they literally are alongside the Kansas Speedway.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been there. It's an amazing environment. I've been there. It's an amazing environment, and those fans are going to show up Sunday night and they're going to cheer as loud as they can because imagine eliminating their like border state rival, newest rival as an 8 seed against eliminating the 1 seed.
Oh, yeah, that would be huge, and definitely a lot of work would have to be done for, St. Louis moving forward. I mean, so look, for both St. Louis and for, I guess, is there any aggregate? I guess aggregate doesn't count here.
No, I think more experience, and I think,
And
I
I'm
mean,
talking about, like, because I know St. Louis lost 4-1, but could they come back and win this one, like, 1-0 and then win game 3 1-0 and then advance?
yeah, mm, I still think Sporting KC is going to advance. They're going to win on Sunday, and they're going to advance.
Mhm. Yeah, but I'm just saying in theory, like, there's no such thing as aggregate goals in the MLS Cup playoffs.
That's a great question that I'll find the answer in our next episode because I know it's a best of 3 games.
So I would assume not, which it's just so weird. It's just so crazy to me, like how different
Yeah,
this format is.
yeah,
I
it's
think it's
very
kind of
different.
yeah,
It reminds me a lot of the late '90s playoff format the Brazilian Championship adopted as well. It was like a best of 3. I like the best of 3. I think it's a good format.
yeah, and I think it kind of prevents the MLB problem of a team coming in with much more experience or much more momentum.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who advances on. But anyway, what's going on in Brazil?
Yeah, first of all, Pan American games I know Americans do not care about. Like I imagine there's nothing being talked on ESPN but America is leading the medal count. They have 72 golds, 45 silver, and 54 bronze. That's 171. And Brazil took over as second place with 37 gold, 47 silver, and 39 bronze, 123 medals. Shout out to Murilo Sartori. He got 1 bronze and 1 gold. A guy from Americana, but he studies at the University of Louisville. Also, the women's team uh, uh, beat Colombia to win the women's basketball gold medal uh, with 2 players from Americana. So Americana is doing well in the Pan American Games as well. Just say that.
Hmm. I'm seriously, how do you even watch these games? Because
Oh,
like,
here in Brazil, actually, it's being shown in a YouTube channel called Casé TV. I don't know if you are able to watch in America, if there's another way to stream it. But here in Brazil, it's 100% online at this YouTube channel called Casé TV.
like here, like NBC is already promoting the crap out of the Paris Olympics. It's just like still 270 days away, and we literally have a literal like mini Olympics going on right now. Which is pretty wild.
Oh, I guess you watch on Fubo TV and Pan Am Sports Channel.
Okay, that's interesting. So basically, it's very hard to watch.
Very hard to watch. Very hard to watch.
Yeah. It's so weird. Like we're literally in the Americas, right? I mean, we're literally the country with the most medals, and we just don't care. It
Yeah,
is pretty
and I
wild.
guess you have like probably the athletes. They are not the top athletes, like the youngest athletes, probably.
Right.
Like Murilo told me, like he is a student athlete for the University of Louisville, and he has to lose tests, he has to lose a lot of classes to be able to compete in the Pan American Games. But he wanted to be there because for the Brazilians, this is kind of like a little bit of the big deal because we compete against our closest countries like Argentina and Colombia and Paraguay, but you know, but I know what matters is the Olympics next year. I know the Pan American Games don't care, but the Americans are leading the medal count. But to some soccer, week 30 in the Brazilian Championship is on the books, and there's a lot of controversy coming out of the Sunday. I want to find a play to show you because there's a huge play that everybody is debating if there was or was not penalty. It happened on the Corinthians Santos game. I'm pulling up the play. I'm gonna try to pull the play so you can see it. But basically, Corinthians was 1-0 thanks to an own goal up until the 52nd minute into the second half. And then, let me see. And then this happens. I found the play. I want to have a better angle. I guess I found it. Hold on. I found it. Let me pull up the play. Here. Hopefully YouTube doesn't strike me. So let me see if they have a. Oh, here's the angle.
O Daronco
Can you
mostra
see?
bastante esse ângulo. Quero analisar muito também pelo ângulo de trás do
Oh
gol.
no, you can't.
Acho que é importante.
Hold on. Can you see the play?
Yeah, so I saw it was a tackle, and I'm
Yeah,
guessing
was
the
a
debate
we-
is whether or not,
Yeah, the
whether or
debate
not
is.
that was
Yeah, I'm trying to find the angle. Let me see if this. Yeah, has a better angle. Yeah, penalty or not?
Well, he came in super late. So I mean, obviously, I think he was trying to go for the ball, but I think you got to call a penalty right there.
Yeah, that's the debate everybody's having because it's like Soteldo got to the ball like he was in possession, and then Bruno Mendes, the defender, he got in late, but he didn't step into Soteldo. Like Corinthians fans argues that Soteldo tripped at Bruno Mendes' feet. Santos fans argue that Bruno Mendes' feet caused Soteldo to trip. That's the both argument.
Well, I mean, clearly the defender there, he tackled too late, and that's the
Yeah,
end
he
of the deal.
tackled too late. Like when I was broadcasting this game, my commentator and my reporter were like, "Oh, there was nothing." I was like, "I don't know. Like it looks like a penalty that VAR would have give." And even the referee was like, "Hey VAR, did you guys found anything on this play?" And they were like, "Oh, we did." And once that was established, I think there was no coming back. And I feel like, the referee is kind of being punished. He's not scheduled to be on any soccer game this midweek, week 31. But that was a controversial call, that's for sure. That draw kept Santos out of the relegation zone, and at number 16. Corinthians number 14 is still a little bit with close to relegation zone, but uh, battle got interesting because Palmeiras got their third straight win. They got 1-0 over Bahia, and Botafogo lost, to Cuiabá, And on Wednesday, Botafogo hosts Palmeiras at Botafogo Stadium. So either Botafogo wins and uh, stays 9-point lead, or Palmeiras wins and gets to be a 3-point deficit only.
I gotta see if that game's on Paramount Plus tomorrow, because that's gonna be. I mean, that'll determine the whole thing. Probably.
That'll determine the whole thing. I will not be broadcasting that game. Fun fact: me and the radio station chose Flamengo hosting Santos because that game would not have much coverage on radio. So we kind of picked the game that would probably get most ratings. So
that
Flamengo,
makes sense.
because a lot of the radio stations are gonna pick the Corinthians game at 8 p.m. and then the Palmeiras game at 10:30 p.m. to do a double header. We're gonna pick the Santos game because not much radio stations are gonna go for that game in the state of Sao Paulo.
I'm about to say that's a really late start for y'all. Why is it a 10:30 kick?
Yeah, that's the TV game. That's our we call the prime time, midweek prime time TV time.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you have an hour ahead.
Yeah, because like I can, when we only get like 10:30 games for like West Coast games, but like that's like a 7:30 start on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's we call in Brazil the TV the TV game, the global game. It's like the ABC game.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be a crazy atmosphere though. But man, for Botafogo, I mean, being at home, they have got to find a way. I mean, you've got to at least.
Yeah, they gotta
at least draw.
I mean,
yeah.
The problem is, I feel like Botafogo is like they are in messy territory because they're one of those teams like they haven't won a national championship since 1995, and their fans are known to be those kind of fans. They always think something is gonna go wrong for that team.
Yeah,
like not an unlucky fan, like a fan that always thinks something gonna go bad for your team. That's Botafogo fans. They lost on Sunday already, so they are fearful.
Yeah, I would be nervous about this too, because it's effectively the Super Bowl for them.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest games in 3 decades. This game, this is it. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a required watch for sure.
I even happy I won't have to broadcast this game, so I can sit back and watch more like the second half, because I'll still be broadcasting Santos game while the Botafogo game is happening. But nevertheless, it's gonna be a hell of a game. And my game that I'll be broadcasting, Flamengo against Santos. Flamengo will be playing this game in Brasilia, the stadium that I picked to be behind me in my back screen. That's the Brazil's capital stadium. Flamengo, they're doing well actually under Tite. They were in a 4-game. They're undefeated in the last 4 games, but they lost this weekend. But they lost on Wednesday. They did not play this weekend because they whine about not having the Maracanã available this weekend because they're being preserved for the Libertadores final. So they pushed back this weekend game for mid-November. So Flamengo will be rested, and Santos, they need to win this game because they are 2 points ahead in the relegation zone, and Vasco and Goiás have really big chances of winning it. So it's going to be also a big game. We'll be broadcasting on Wednesday, Flamengo hosting Santos in Brasilia as well.
Absolutely. Definitely coming down the stretch. It's going to be an exciting finish. It's crazy. It just feels like Focus had the stranglehold this entire year. But I almost felt like there was almost this sense of dread this entire year where I just felt like they weren't going to be able to keep it because I just felt like it was at 10, it was at 10, it was at 10. And they couldn't get it higher than that.
It all comes down to what happened this Wednesday. It all comes down to what happens this Wednesday, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a fantastic game, I think.
Yeah. But that's it for episode 102 for Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports.
Absolutely. As we have reached early Halloween, certainly everyone have a happy Halloween, trick or treat, whatever you do, dress up. For Gustavo Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nick Hill from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. You've been listening or watching the only American and Brazilian sports podcast, Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. You'll have a good one.